Hey guys, how's it going? In this tutorial, in this part of this series, we're going to be taking a look at the breakdown section, if you will, of the synths that I use there, and I'll just play for you that section, and that way we'll break it down from there. So the main gist of it is kind of right here where I'll loop some of these parts. So we have the bass, the sub bass that we have. We have the piano chords. And then there's that pluck that I mentioned in the last tutorial. Now, earlier in that verse section, the pluck sounds like this, and then it ends up turning into this. And the way that it is there with that pluck, same as how it is in the drop. So let me get into depth with each one. Let's start off with the bass, because that's the simplest. So as always, if you have seen any of my other tutorials, I always suggest for a sub bass, use a sine wave. It doesn't matter what synthesizer you're using. It's really easy to make, especially if you have Serum. I would suggest going and turning off your oscillator A, and then just going under the sub oscillator and just make sure it's sine. Put it down an octave, and you have yourself a sine wave sub bass. So really easy, just copying the bass line of what is in my progression. The main elements in this song can be attributed to this chord progression right here. So this is the bass line that I use for my sub, and then all these chords here are those top chords that I use for my other synths. But so bottom line is, I got that basic sine preset from the Nexus, and it works great. So this is what it sounds like. Processing is very simple. Here I have an auto filter just cutting out all the high frequencies, and over here I have an auto filter which just kind of transitions it out. As we're getting in the build, for example, you'll see it move, because when I'm getting towards that build, I'm trying to get rid of the bass and then drop it really heavy at the drop. And then I have a utility at the end of that chain with my width at 0% to make it in mono. That way our direction is very head-on. Moving on to the piano chords. Like I said, the piano chords are based off of this chord progression here. Right here. Now I changed the rhythm a little bit and just changed the way the notes go, so this is it. So let me explain the rhythms and how I came up with these little trills at the end. So as you can see, for the most part, it would look like they're just going to be whole notes. So let me unfreeze it real quick. So whole notes going on that I would have had here. Decided not to do that. So there we go. And the trick to the trills is, as you can see, they're the notes that I use in my chord progression. So when I did that chord, for the last quarter note, I used 16th notes to work my way down by stepping down, going from the top note to the lowest. So I went from E to C, A, and F, and then I just, and so then I use quarter notes, just those quarter note right there, to give it that bounce, and then hit it again with another chord. And so the same technique, except instead of going down, I worked my way up, and I just did that for variation so that I would kind of mirror in an interesting way. So that's it for the piano chords. And as far as the processing goes, I used the Ableton stock grand piano. These are my settings. I don't think I changed too much on that. I have my LFO tool, which I'm not really using, but I had it there just in case. This EQ, just kind of touching up on some of those frequencies just to kind of get a brighter sound out of it. Touch of reverb, which I move in and out of use, because as I get heavier into certain sections, like here, during the chorus, I want to have it a little bit more dry, because it's going to really drive the song into a heavier section at that point. I want them to sound a little bit more powerful during those sections. But those are the settings right here. You can copy them if you'd like. And then this auto filter is just here to bring in and out the sound as I transition into different sections. So that's pretty much it for that. Let's freeze that. And then the next section that we're going to go into, we're going to start talking about that pluck. Now, with that pluck, I used the same chord progression. It's just instead of doing those variations with the notes and the trills and all that, I just used 16th notes. So as soon as, you know what, let's just skip that. Okay, so if we go into our pluck, look here at our notes. Like I said, same chord progression using 16th notes. That's pretty much it. And let me show you some processing that I have on here. So we have silence. I'll flash these real quick for the silence preset if you want to copy it. It's from a Vandalism pack. Don't remember which one, but it's Vandalism Lead Solar. This is part A, part B. And so on its own, this is what it sounds like. It's like a pluckier sound. So and so by using those 16th notes, it kind of gives it that rhythm over here. So all I have going on there is that little EQ here, just cutting back on some things. This EQ comes in at a different point. Where is it? Let's see if it'll show automation. Okay. Yeah, so during the build, I boost some of those side frequencies over here in this area and cut some of that mono frequency in the bass section, just because we're, like I said, we're building up again. We're starting to get rid of a bass, and we're gonna hit it hard as soon as the drop kicks in. Okay, so that's as far as we've got pretty much there. We'll get to the LFO tool in a second. The auto filter, same thing as in all the other sections. I'm using it as a transition thing, so I'm just pulling up the frequency and the resonance to give it kind of that sweeping sound. And auto filter here. Let's see, show automation. So that's the part where the difference is from here. So over here it's wider. Over here we're cutting those high frequencies just because I wanted to create more of an atmosphere here, whereas here it's more presence. So as soon as I open those up, it's suddenly like, oh, it's a new section. It's brighter, but really it's the same sound. Okay, let's go to the LFO tool, because that's what's giving it that pumping effect that you hear in the drop and during this section. And so I just use the LFO tool. You can use any device that you'd like, kickstart, compression, but what you want to do is you want to make that dip really low. So let's say if you're using a compressor, maybe throw the threshold all the way down, or if you're using one of those filter type LFO tools to cut back, whether it's the kickstart, I believe, the one that it's the Naked Romero one, but like I said, I'm using Xver's LFO tool, and so you can go ahead and just bring down the frequency all the way down and just give it a big dip. I want to show you what it looks like, but I've had issues in the past in my videos where I flashed the LFO tool thingy and it got striked for copyright or something from Xver, so I don't know. I don't want to touch it real quick just because I don't want it to get taken down, but just make it a big dip. I mean, you can hear it. let's see if I can go here and no, okay. So I just quickly configured this to be the parameter for my y-axis of what brings up the dip higher and lower. So let's solo that and I'll show it to you real quick. So I just bring it way down so that it gives it that big sweep, and it just adds a lot to that drop section, even because when that's going on, it gives it a lot of room for that sub bass that I have here. Let's solo that. And not to mention that during that as well, we have all these crazy synths going on. Gives it a lot of room there to breathe and really have those melodies punch through. But that's basically it for the breakdown section. Like I've gone through the drums earlier in this section. So combining that with the synths and everything, so piano, let's see, I have this, the bass. Alright, and so that's pretty much it for the next episode of this series. We're going to be covering the melody, the main hook melody that you hear during the drop, how it starts out here in the breakdown section, and develops into what becomes the drop. We're going to be talking a little bit about layering since we have all these different layers, and I'll give you a look at the presets I'm using and what kind of effects I'm making so that it gives it some cool sounds and variation during that drop. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for checking out this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for the latest videos every Monday and Wednesday, and click on this box here for the latest video. Keep on producing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.